Thank you guys so much for hopping in. Welcome to the inaugural Toronto Forum. And we're here presented by Unit. I will be your host, Anthony Boschi, and I'm really pumped up about our speakers coming up. We have a great lineup. They will be expressing their crafts and they will be showcasing the Toronto ecosystem. And many of the talks are predicated on blockchain, crypto, NFTs, and so forth. And this just goes to show the trajectory of blockchain adoption in the Toronto and North American ecosystem. So I'm very grateful to be able to share this with you guys. I just want to take this time before our first major speaker, Manny Fraser, as we see is here in the chat, to give a little bit of an introduction to Toronto. And I live in Toronto. I grew up in Toronto, so I can attest to a lot of the experiences that I will be sharing. And just want to give a little taste of the culture here because it really is vibrant, lively, it's beautiful, and definitely one of my favorite places in the world. Yes, Myra, we are recording. Thank you so much for checking in. And throughout the talk, whether it be during mine, whether it be during any of the other talks that will occur throughout the rest of the day, feel free to ask any questions in the chat, network, communicate with each other, and do what you need to do to glean as much insight and information as you can, because this is supposed to be a collaborative experience for everyone. So thank you so much. I will be sharing my screen just to give a brief presentation on our introduction. And thank you so much again. Let me know if you need anything at all. Again, welcome. This is our Toronto token. The Toronto token is going to be also presented and created by Unit Foundation. It will be on our Unit network and it is supposed to serve as an index for the Toronto ecosystem. And that's our intent here, is to build a community necessary that is interested in things like blockchain, tokenization, and who can come together to raise more capital through this new stakeholder economy that we're attempting to build. So we get to do it together. It's all based on the people that are part of it. And really pumped up again to present this to you guys. So to start off, this is our city. This is our skyline. If you haven't seen it before, it's very iconic. So I'm sure many of you have, but it does look like this in real life as every day, every night. So I'd love to see this as much as I can. It's very close by to me. And we will move forward to just some fun facts. Some fun facts about the city are that it is the most multicultural city in the world. It is roughly half of the city's population was actually born outside of Canada, and it's true. If you walk down there, you'll communicate with so many people who have just such extensive backgrounds, and you'll learn something new from people and their backgrounds, their families, and just how they were brought up. Anywhere you go across the city, something that I've recognized growing up is that I've had so many different lifestyles and cultures and values from the people that I even went to school with, and it just really acclimated me to what it means to be a human in the world. Next, we had the tallest skyscraper in the world, which is our CN Tower, which was presented, of course, on our skyline in the front page there. However, that was beaten by the Burj Khalifa. They beat us to it. I have yet to actually see the Burj Khalifa in person. It looks stunning. And that is, of course, another iconic tower, another iconic monument in the world. Next, Casa Loma is the only actual castle in North America. And there's this picture right here is the actual picture of Casa Loma. It's right here in Toronto. And it used to actually be the home of someone's named Sir Henry. He was a financier in the early 1900s. So it's actually a pretty cool house, if I might add. But it's definitely a huge tourist attraction, something I'd highly advise to check out if you are here. It's gorgeous. It's very well taken care of. And I'd like to also move forward to our next fun fact here, which is the fact that our film industry is a hidden gem. And this is something that I have definitely recognized as well. You'll see so many massive production trucks anywhere on the streets downtown, even in the suburbs such as Mississauga. And the reason being is that we have a huge entertainment, a huge fashion industry in Toronto, and it costs a lot of the American companies less because of the dollar exchange rate. So a lot of people end up coming here to make some films, make some movies, and it's a hub spot for the rest of the country as well. Toronto has over 23,700 artists, pretty wild to see, and I'll be diving more into this as we look at some of our potential case studies for tokenization, such as musicians and artists, and they are very abundant and prominent in the city. There's a lot of graffiti art, there's a huge music scene, and it's really great to see that people are tapping into their creative and passionate sides, and there's just so many fruitful expressions and so many colors that the city has to offer. And last, but definitely not least, it is rated in the top 10 of the most livable cities in the world. I can see why, being that we have a full range of seasons, we have great economic system, we have such a diversity of people, and there's just so much to do here. One thing that I actually wanted to add that I've come across in the past few months that I haven't seen growing up was the distillery district, and that's something that I highly recommend people do. What's so cool about the distillery district is that it actually is like a mini campus of cafes, restaurants, and bars, and it's by the water. So if you're from Toronto, then you'll know what I'm talking about. If not, again, a great spot to walk through, and another tourist attraction if you come by the city. So moving forward, just some facts about our population. Toronto is the most populated city in Canada with 2.9 million people in the inner city and 6.7 million people in the total region. Our annual growth rate is 0.93% since 2015. Numbers are going up, and almost 1 in 5 Canadians and almost half of the Ontarians live in the GTA. So if you can see on our map here, Toronto is very close to the States, very close to the border here. And then when you zoom in, you have your other areas. These are your suburbs, such as Mississauga, as I previously alluded to. You have Vaughan, you have Scarborough, and Brampton. There are so many. And I actually grew up in Mississauga, now living in Toronto. So Mississauga has like become its own major city of itself. It's just expanding that quickly, that fast, and a lot of real estate here, that's for sure. So let's explore a little bit more of Toronto. Some of these images here you may see are also very iconic. We have our Toronto sign, which is in the front of City Hall. A lot of Instagram photos being taken there. It really is a great view. The next one here to our right is just an image of a restaurant, just to show that our nightlife and our culture is very lively. Even though we have a heavy winter season, people still manage to get out. These days, it's of course been tougher due to restrictions and because of the virus, but people really do make it a priority to get together and to share these unique experiences. There are so many microbreweries in the area, and it really is a lot of fun. Next, Ripley's Aquarium. This is a spot that I've been once before. Just a massive aquarium in the middle of downtown Toronto. Something if you'd like to check out, something to do if you're coming on a quick visit. And then here, this is actually off of the CN Tower itself. It's a skyfall, and I could never imagine doing it. But look, definitely, there are some people who are willing to, and it's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. So let's explore. We have a well-diversified economy. So our economy is the largest contributor to the Canadian economy at 20% of the national GDP. Toronto is Canada's business and financial capital, a growing financial hub in North America, and a top 10 global financial center. Toronto's GDP is significantly outpacing the national average. The Toronto region's GDP has grown by an average of 2.4% annually since 2009, compared to the national rate of 1.8%. Furthermore, Toronto is competitive in almost every other major business sector, from tech, life sciences, green energy, fashion, design, food, beverage, from film and television, production to music and digital media. As I said, it's a fruitful experience here with so much to offer, and this is just scraping the surface. If you can see on our chart here, this is simply just the job growth in selected sectors in Toronto from 2000 to 2017. Typically, most have gone up on average over time, other than manufacturing. We will delve further into this in this presentation, but just goes to show that automation really is taking over, and there will be a lot of new jobs being taken place, hopefully on the creative side, as laborious and repetitive type jobs are being replaced, especially in this area. But look, when you see it, arts and education, computer systems, AR industries, those are all on the rise, and this all plays a part and I think complements the token and the blockchain economy as a whole. So some of our major industries, financial services for sure. As you see in this chart here, we have banking and deposit-taking institutions at 58.3% of the financial services, insurance carriers at 17.7%, securities and investments at 22.5%, and funds and other financial vehicles at a slight 1.5% to top it off. Our Toronto Financial Centre is home to top banks. Canada's 5 largest banks are among the 30 largest banks in the world. Assets, over 10 trillion in assets held by Canadian financial institutions and pension funds. Health insurers, 3 of Canada's life and health insurers rank among the top 15 largest in the world. And lastly, pension funds are 3rd globally in pension assets, 4 Canadian pension funds among the top 25 in North America. So real estate is, as I previously alluded to, is definitely another major one. There has been housing appreciation over time. As you can see in 2018, the city of Toronto, not the whole GTA, just the city itself, so not those suburbs that I mentioned on the map, but in Toronto itself, about 35,000 homes were built, while the population increased by about 77,000. So you see a 2-to-1 ratio there, which goes to show the increased demand over time, which is continuing to grow. And with that, the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board says that August home sales slowed from the frenzied pace seen earlier this year, but market conditions have tightened as supply plummeted by 43% and prices rose yet again. So again, the constriction of the supply and the rise in demand, of course, you're going to have housing appreciation. It's beneficial for homeowners. However, there are concerns revolving around affordability. In Toronto, the condo segment continues to be marked by a cautious sentiment amid concerns about project cancellations, delays in approvals, rising costs, and slowing momentum on pricing are all adding to the potential for further cancellations. But on the upside, there are many interviewees noted rising in demand in larger suites. Other trends include a move toward integrating more diverse uses in developments, rather than just having retail uses at the bottom of condos, developers, and diversifying them to include facilities like elevated parks, community centers, and daycares. So you really want to expand the wealth, if you may, and have all these different offerings that the city has, such again as these parks and facilities inside of many residential areas as well. Also, wholesale and retail, massive industry here in Toronto. To tap into wholesale makes up to 2.5% of Toronto's overall employment. However, wholesale trade workforce is aging. Employment data shows that over 0.5% of those employed in the wholesale trade are age 45 and older. The sector will have to ensure it is able to attract younger workers in the field. There are definitely some complements to the industry, some potential positions such as stalkers, clerks, order fillers, technical sales specialists are definitely among a few. Now, when you look at retail specifically as its own, retail and wholesale trade remain significant components of Toronto's economy. The sector employs over 400,000 individuals across the Greater Toronto Area. That was to around a 6 million total of the population, so it's quite large. The retail industry also presents opportunities for entrepreneurs and often requires only minimal startup capital. Retail remains the heart of Toronto's small business community. While the pandemic halted in-person retail shopping for most of 2020, the growth and popularity of e-commerce is always allowing the sector to rebound in new and innovative ways. There are now over 4,500 online retailers calling Toronto home. And as you can see, with some of the massive giants such as Amazon, they've boomed right away, even due to this shutdowns in the overall economy. So now to tap into our exchange, our TSX, Toronto Stock Exchange, is the 8th largest exchange in the world with a 3.1 trillion market cap as of September of 2020. It has two major sectors, which are energy and finance. Created in October 1861, there were only 18 stocks listed on the exchange. Crazy to think about. Mostly banks and real estate companies, however, but at the time there was one daily 30-minute trading session during which just a few transactions would take place. This is compared and not even comparable, if you may, to the massive and millions amount of transactions of volume that's going through on a daily basis. At first, it only cost $5 for companies to list on the TSX, but that increased to $250 a decade later. Seems like a big jump, right? It now costs between $500,000 to $1 million after fees are accounted for. By 1901, there were 100 companies on the TSX, and by 1913, the exchange moved to its very own building. By 1936, the TSX was North America's third largest exchange. So you can see how it definitely has made a lot of jumps over the years, and you can see the drastic change. And when you just look at the cost of what it takes to go public and file an IPO, look at this: $500,000 to $1 million. And righteously so in some cases, right? When a company is ready and they have the revenue to do so, the resources and so forth. However, what we're trying to do is solve the problem that we believe tokenization will solve, because the issue is here, there's a huge gap between the people who are able to go public and raise funds for their craft, for their business, for their brand, for their idea, whatever the case may be. And we need a more globalized, a more ubiquitous system to access funds and promote them and propagate our ideas to the masses. And that's where, again, the token economy comes in and what Unit is building. So there is a Toronto 2030 plan. It is by 2030 districts. Now, just to note, this 2030 plan by 2030 district is not exclusive to Toronto. 2030 district is offered through a range of different cities. Toronto just happens to be one of them. What they're trying to do is provide a private-public initiative committed to achieving a low-carbon future. It's a broad stakeholder network that's comprised of property owners, managers, tenants, utilities, government, service providers, and civil society within downtown Toronto. District encompasses over 300 million square feet of office, commercial, residential, institutional, and industrial space. The focus is on reducing building-related energy use, water consumption, and transportation emissions. As you can see in the graph here, this is where we're at today. We want to get it down to 50% by 2030, and they are using a lot of existing buildings and a lot of new buildings to do so to comprise this low-carbon future. To continue on with that, in 2020, there was an article posted by Ryerson University, a Toronto university, that claimed that there are 5 foundational skills and abilities that are likely to be important across Canada's labor market in 2030. These are instruction, persuasion, service orientation, brainstorming, and memorization. It just goes to show the shifts that are happening in industry today and just the types of work that will be cultivated over time, and how work will change in and of itself in terms of how we cooperate each other, the skills that are necessary, and how we're going to develop as a civilization over time. Furthermore, graphic designers, illustrators, chefs, specialist physicians, registered nurses, and registered psychiatric nurses, and technical sales specialists in wholesale trade are all jobs that are projected to see growth as well. So if you're in those sectors, already seeming to be on the right track according to Ryerson University. On the other hand, occupations in manufacturing utilities are generally projected to decrease in the next decade. So possibly these, as I mentioned before, as you saw in the graph, manufacturing has decreased over the past roughly 20 years, and a lot of this is due to automation. So as we see, a lot of more creative, a lot of more interpersonal type of positions are being opened up alongside the skills that are necessary to complete them. Now, you can't mention Toronto without mentioning some of their major influences, and those are definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, their sports teams. It is embedded into the culture. There is so much pride in Toronto sports. The fan base is absolutely electric, and I'm so honored to be a fan of each of these teams right here. We have our Toronto Raptors, who actually won the 2019 NBA Finals in May of 2019, so that was massive. The city had erupted for that. We have our Toronto Maple Leafs, iconic, one of the big main first 6 or original 6 in the NHL. However, they haven't won in over 50 years, so we're itching for that there. Toronto FC, soccer. As a soccer player myself, or previous soccer player growing up, Toronto FC was definitely held close to my heart, and the Toronto Blue Jays, great for anyone. Toronto Blue Jays tend to attract a lot of the tourists, which are great. And our Rogers Stadium, which is was, I believe, the first stadium to have an open roof. So there's a lot to check out for sure, and all the teams seem to be doing quite all right. Furthermore, Toronto gathers and unites those from all walks of life through its state-of-the-art facilities. As I said, we have our Rogers Centre, we also have our Scotiabank Centre, and those of which attract tourists and avid fans such as myself. This is also greatly due to the fact that there are 2 major teams, and that 2 of the major teams are the only ones in Canada, therefore unifying an entire country behind them. This is very true. We have our Toronto Blue Jays and Toronto Raptors with baseball and basketball respectively. They are the only teams in the major leagues in Canada. So when they do well, whether you love or hate Toronto, the country typically tends to get behind them. Lastly, I just wanted to add, among these influences, music is a thriving sector here. We have a huge scene for music, and music is embedded with sports. If you're familiar with the hip hop artist Drake, he even has his own OVO, which is his brand night for the Toronto Raptors, where they wear his theme, his gear. They paint the floor with his OVO branding, and it's really interesting to see the integration between these two and how well cultured they are together. Next, we want to talk a little bit more about crypto, because again, a lot of this conference is predicated on blockchain, and we are a tokenization platform. So we do want to see what do the attitudes look like right now. And as of now, Canada has been quite open to crypto and regulates it as a security, but not as legal tender. So for example, if you were to have capital gains, you'd get about 50% tax on it, whereas if it was business income, it would be about 100% of the taxable business income. Bank of Canada has suggested that stable coins may positively impact the way we make payments. Okay, possibly leaning in the right direction. TSX, first Bitcoin ETF in North America, which is BTCC, and UFT, University of Toronto, does have a Bitcoin and cryptocurrency investing course, which is just going to show that adoption is underway as we speak. There are some caveats to this. Binance is no longer available in Ontario, which is the province that Toronto resides in. Allegedly, they did not comply with the Ontario Security Commission guidelines, so that is something to keep an eye out for with other DEXs and exchanges and so forth. And also, there's so much uncertainty. Anyone you talk to here in Toronto regarding crypto knows that there's a lot still to be at play. There's a lot of regulation that still hasn't been written or set in stone. So there's so much uncertainty as to how this is going to go. And I think this is reflected in so many areas around the world as well. This is just the sentiment as of right now. We just really don't know how this is going, how the transition is going to be made and how it's going to be adopted. But we can take matters into our hands to ensure that we democratize access to this capital through NFTs, through the tokenized economy, through even the metaverse and all these varying vehicles that we're using in the blockchain space. So there are some top blockchain companies. I'll list them very briefly. They're Unixoft, Solulab, Elix, Labris, Idealogic, Talentica Software, and OpenCell. Interestingly enough, many of these are involved in consulting and web development and not crypto itself. So of course, blockchain and crypto can be independent from each other. And this is just to note that there is blockchain. However, crypto is still very nascent in its stages. There is, however, a huge crypto community, Bitcoin Bay, one of the biggest. These guys are very well known. But if you do hold crypto to heart and do you want to learn more and get involved, whether you're outside of Toronto or inside Toronto, these are some of the major groups to get involved with as they shed a lot of great insights and information and really want to propel this economy and future in, I would hope to say, the most benevolent way possible. Now, because again, we've mentioned the token economy, I do want to mention some potential token segments that I see being beneficial just from my experience being here and living in Toronto. And two of those are street art and music. So Street Art Toronto, also referred to as START, is a suite of innovative programs designed specifically for streets and public spaces. Initiated in 2012 as an integral part of the city's graffiti management plan, START has been successful in reducing graffiti vandalism and replacing it with vibrant, colorful, community-engaged street art. So it's just a healthier version of the graffiti that's there to promote real street art. And we can tokenize the segment to help fund these artists who are putting so much time, work, and developing community around these segments to share a vibrant city and an artistic city altogether. Again, music, RBC, Royal Bank of Canada, does have an emerging music program that selects and supports 5 musicians who apply and demonstrate a commitment to pursuing a career in music through mentorship. So they'd offer studio time, prizes, possibly production, and resources of the liking. And I think this is a step in the right direction. However, it doesn't tackle the issue of democratizing access as a whole, of really utilizing blockchain to be able to tokenize and utilize this crypto space to enable artists, to empower them to develop sovereignty and ownership over their craft, over their masters, and be able to connect directly peer-to-peer with their community, because this is only a small, minute fraction of the entire music industry here in Toronto. As I said, only supports 5 musicians who apply. We need access for everyone who's a musician, and this is precisely what we here at Unit and our speakers today will be talking fairly a bit about. Now, just to give a bit of an overview of the Unit ecosystem before we run out of time here, I want to say that you guys all belong here. This is what we have in terms of our ecosystem. We have 3 main pillars. It's our network, which is our actual platform to tokenize itself. It also has a decentralized banking mechanism. It's our Unit Foundation, comprised of our core team members. It's our Unit Global for all of our industry and city teams. So our Toronto team and our Toronto token would fit among this, among other like our music token, our yoga token, our New York token, our Dubai token, for example, and these all fit within the Unit Global community. As you can see this visual here. Now we've broken our growth initiatives into 5 different ones to increase adoption. And those are conferences, which is what we're doing right now, ventures, masters, university, and news. You could find all of this information on our website, unit.foundation. And just to let you know about some of our tokenomics and our structure, we have 5 types of tokens, each of which permeate the next. So we have our blue chips that we're calling them, which are crypto itself, Bitcoin, ETH, DOT, Sol, Matic, Link, BNB, and Kusama, they become wrapped to be used on the unit network. And these are what fuel and power the token economy, because we have real underlying assets that are stored in our treasury. So all our tokens are not subject to speculative value, they're actually backed by real assets as well. We have our unit token, which again are backed by the blue chips. We have our industry, city, and stable coins, Toronto, of course, being one of them. Our agencies and fund, which will support the further production of these token projects and procure this process for those who are unaware of how to start tokenizing and unaware of the blockchain space as of yet. And then we have our personal projects. So again, any idea, any brand, any business that you have that you want to tokenize, they become backed by these blue chips, unit or industry, city, and stable coins, and allow you to have real assets held in your treasury to gauge the success and growth of your project. I know I skipped through this fairly quickly. Again, you can find more details on unit.foundation, and just want to make sure we have enough time here. Just to elucidate our Toronto token itself, there will be a supply of 100 million, and we're focused on several global communities and targeting multiple cities around the world, because we believe that fundamentally all people share similar wants and needs, which are safety, stability, purpose in life, and connection. And these are among some of our deepest values. I want to say thank you so much for tuning in.